Most people see salt as just something in their kitchen. But in the Quran and the prophetic traditions, every creation has a purpose. Even this crystal in your hand. What if I told you that salt, placed in certain spots in your home, could become a reminder of Allah's power, a silent companion to your du'as, and in some cases, a shield from unseen harm? From the earliest generations of Muslims, salt has carried more meaning than taste. It symbolizes purity, cleansing not just the body, but the heart. It preserves, a reminder that Allah preserves the believer through trials. It protects, a physical barrier in some traditions, but more importantly, a reminder of the one who guards us from harm. This isn't superstition. This is about connecting everyday actions to deep intentions, tying them to the remembrance of Allah. Modern real life mini story. In the heart of Yemen, during one of the most difficult periods of conflict, a small family lived in a humble home at the edge of their village. Every day, before Maghrib, the mother would sprinkle a pinch of salt near the main doorway while quietly reciting, Bismillah, Tawakkaltu ala Allah. Her children would watch, not fully understanding. Weeks later, as tensions and thefts shook the neighborhood, her home remained untouched. Neighbors spoke of it as barakah, a blessing. She would simply smile and say, when you trust in Allah, even the smallest thing can become a means for His mercy. This is just one of many stories, both ancient and modern, where salt has played a symbolic role in protection and blessings. In a few moments, I'm going to share the 5 places where placing salt has been linked to powerful responses, both in Islamic tradition and in the lived experiences of Muslims today. But remember, it's not the salt itself that has power. It is Allah, who grants benefit and protection through whatever means He wills. Before I reveal these 5 places, tell me, have you ever heard of salt being used for protection or blessing in Islam? Write your answer in the comments before watching further. Let's see how many of you already know this hidden connection. Historical and Quranic background. Before we uncover the 5 specific places where salt can be placed with intention, we need to understand why this simple mineral holds such a place of respect in Islamic tradition and human history. Without context, an action is just a habit. But with knowledge, it becomes an act of worship, a remembrance of Allah, and a connection to our heritage. Authentic prophetic reference. There are narrations, though their exact chains vary, where it is mentioned that the Prophet Muhammad encouraged beginning and ending meals with salt. Scholars discuss the authenticity and practical wisdom behind this, noting that in the time of the Prophet, salt was valued not only for taste, but also for its role in digestion and preservation. While some narrations are debated, one thing remains clear. Salt was present in the daily lives of the early Muslims, and every creation, including salt, was understood as a sign of Allah's provision. Symbolic meanings in Islamic culture. Across Muslim lands, salt has been given symbolic meanings. Purity, just as salt cleanses and preserves food, it serves as a reminder of cleansing the soul from sin. Preservation, salt keeps food from decay, much like faith keeps the heart from spiritual corruption. Covenant. In some early Muslim communities, sharing salt with someone was considered a sign of trust and loyalty. Humility, salt is simple, common, and inexpensive, yet it's essential. It reflects the humility a believer should carry, knowing that even the smallest of Allah's creations serves great purposes. Quranic principle. Allah tells us, and He has subjected to you whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, all from Him. Indeed, In that are signs for a people who give thought. Quran 45:13. This verse reminds us that every single thing we encounter, no matter how small, even a grain of salt, is a part of the divine system created for a reason. It is not random. It is not insignificant. Real life, modern story. Let me share with you a story from Indonesia. On the coast of central Java lives a fisherman named Harun. For over 30 years, every morning before setting out to sea, he takes a small handful of salt, places it in the boat, and recites Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, followed by a short dua asking Allah for halal sustenance and safe return. His neighbors used to tease him, saying it was an old man's superstition. But year after year, even when storms destroyed other boats and catches ran low, Harun always managed to come back with enough fish to feed his family and sell at the market. He says, "It's not the salt. It's the blessing that comes when you begin with Allah's name, even in the smallest actions." Historical note: salt's role in Muslim lands. Historicals.
Salt was so valuable in some parts of the Muslim world that it was traded like currency. In 14th century Mali, the salt mines of Tagaza were crucial for the empire's economy, and caravans would travel weeks through the desert to transport slabs of it. This wasn't just about food, it was about survival, trade, and fulfilling Allah's command to seek sustenance through lawful means. Reflection. When we place salt with intention today, we are not inventing something new. We are tapping into a centuries-old awareness that everything Allah has created has purpose, both physical and spiritual. It's a continuation of a mindset, one where the believer sees Allah's signs in even the simplest of acts. Does this historical perspective surprise you? Comment, Subhanallah. If you see Allah's wisdom even in the smallest things. The 5 places to put salt. The 5 places to put salt. Core content. Now that we understand the historical and Quranic background of salt, let's go deeper into the 5 specific places where placing salt, with sincere dua and remembrance of Allah, has been connected to blessings and protection in Muslim tradition and real life. Remember, salt is not a source of power by itself. It is a creation of Allah, and all benefit comes from Him alone. Place 1. The kitchen entrance. In a busy Cairo neighborhood, there lived a woman named Samira. Her pantry was often plagued with pests, and food seemed to spoil too quickly. One day, an elderly neighbor advised her, "Place a small bowl of salt near your kitchen entrance, and each time you pass it, say, Bismillah." Samira followed the advice, not out of superstition, but as a way to bring remembrance of Allah into the heart of her home. Over time, she noticed 2 things. Her food wastage reduced drastically, and her kitchen felt calmer, more organized. The pests stopped coming. She would smile and say, "Barakah isn't about having more. It's about Allah making what you have enough." Spiritual link. In Islam, the kitchen is more than a place to cook. It's where sustenance, a gift from Allah, is prepared. Placing salt at the entrance while invoking Allah's name can serve as a physical reminder to seek His barakah in every meal. Place 2. The threshold of the home. In the midst of the Syrian conflict, a refugee family living in a temporary shelter began placing a pinch of salt at their front door every evening after making dua for safety. The father would say, "This salt is nothing without Allah's protection, but let it be a sign of our trust in Him." Weeks later, while other homes nearby were vandalized, theirs remained untouched. Was it the salt? No. It was Allah's qadr. But the salt served as a symbol of their prayers and their constant remembrance of Him at the entrance to their home. Spiritual link. The Prophet Muhammad taught that when leaving or entering our homes,
we should mention Allah's name to ward off shaitan. For some Muslims, placing salt at the threshold has become a way to physically anchor that habit, a visual cue to remember Allah's protection. Place 3. The corners of a new home. Across the Muslim world, it's common when moving into a new home to purify it before settling in. In Morocco, Pakistan, and parts of Turkey, some families place small piles of salt in each corner of the house after reciting Quran, such as Surah Al-Baqarah, to ward off any negative presence. A newly married couple in Karachi followed this tradition. Before moving their belongings in, they placed salt in the 4 corners of their apartment while reciting the dua for entering a new home. Months later, they reflected on how peaceful their new life felt, even in a bustling city. Quranic reminder, and Allah is the best of protectors, and He is the most merciful of those who show mercy. Quran 12:64. The salt has no inherent ability to shield you, but as part of a ritual of remembrance, it can help maintain mindfulness of Allah's role as Al-Hafiz, the protector. Place 4. Near the garden or crops. In the dry fields of Sudan, a farmer named Idris struggled with crop damage from insects year after year. One season, an elder suggested sprinkling salt around the edges of his field while making dua for protection from harm. Idris took the advice, not as a superstition, but as an act of tawakkul, coupling his farming work with remembrance. That year, when neighboring farms were struck by a devastating pest wave, Idris's crops survived almost untouched. He told his fellow farmers, "It is Allah who protects. The salt was just my way of remembering Him while asking for His mercy on my harvest." Spiritual link. Agriculture is one of humanity's oldest callings, and Allah reminds us in the Quran that He alone sends rain, causes seeds to grow, and keeps them safe. Using salt here is a reminder of gratitude for His provision and a call for His safeguarding. Place 5. Around water sources. In many rural Muslim communities, people place salt near wells, water jars, or tanks, sometimes to physically deter insects, but also to symbolize purity. Water is life, and salt, which both preserves and cleanses, is seen as a companion in guarding it. In a small Afghan village, a well that served dozens of families had begun to taste strange due to contamination. While waiting for repairs, the village imam encouraged people to place clean salt nearby and recite duas asking Allah to keep their water safe from harm. Soon after, heavy rains flushed the well, restoring its clarity. The villagers took it as a reminder that Allah answers even small prayers in unexpected ways. Spiritual link. In Islam, water is a symbol of mercy and life. Placing salt near it is not a magical act, but a way of honoring the gift and praying for its continued purity. These 5 places, the kitchen entrance, home threshold, corners of a new home, near gardens and around water, are not about superstition. They are about turning daily spaces into reminders of Allah. The salt is simply a tool, a visual cue that pulls the heart toward remembrance and gratitude. The real blessing comes from sincere intention, dua, and trust in Allah's will. If you already do any of these without knowing their spiritual side, type "I do this" in the comments. Let's see how many of us share this hidden, Sunnah-inspired habit. Real stories from the Quran. Real stories. From the Quran is filled with stories that remind us of Allah's ability to change the nature of things, to transform what harms into what heals, what is bitter into what is sweet, what is lifeless into what gives life. Salt, in its own way, reflects this divine ability. It can purify, preserve, and transform, depending on how it is used. Prophet Musa, ISS, and the bitter waters after Allah saved the children of Israel from Pharaoh, they traveled through the desert. In Surah Al-A'raf 7:160, it is mentioned that Allah provided them with 12 springs of water, each for a tribe. But in another moment during their journey, as mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah 260 and Surah Taha 20:77-79, they came upon water that was undrinkable, bitter and useless. Allah commanded Musa to strike a rock with his staff, and pure water gushed forth. This is more than a miracle of provision. It's a sign of transformation. Just as Allah turned bitter water sweet, He can change the nature of any situation in our lives. Salt, too, changes the taste and condition of food and water. A small echo of the greater transformation Allah brings into our lives. Prophet Nuh and the flood. In the story of Prophet Nuh, water becomes a force of both destruction and purification. In Surah Hud 11:36-48, Allah commanded the flood to cleanse the earth of corruption while saving those who believed. The same water that destroyed was also the water that carried the ark to safety. Here, we see that the same element can serve opposite purposes depending on Allah's will. Just like salt can preserve life, or in excess, destroy crops. It reminds us that power lies not in the creation itself, but in the Creator who controls it. Spiritual reflection. These Quranic stories are not simply historical records. They are signs for the believer. Allah says, "Indeed, in their stories, there is a lesson for people of reason." Quran 12, 11. Salt's role in our lives, in preserving, purifying, and symbolizing protection, is a small reflection of these greater truths. It is not the salt that acts, but Allah who decrees its effect. When we place salt with dua, we are acknowledging that all change, all protection, and all blessing come from Him. Which Quranic story about Allah's power inspires you most? Share it in the comments and inspire someone else watching this. Closing inspiration and call to action. We've journeyed from kitchens in Cairo to the fields of Sudan, from Syrian refugee homes to ancient Quranic waters, discovering how something as ordinary as salt can become a symbol, a reminder of Allah's power and mercy. But let's be clear, salt is not magic. It is simply one of Allah's countless creations, and like everything else in this world, it only becomes a means when tied to sincere dua, pure intention, and trust in the Almighty. Modern real-life example. In Pakistan, during a season of devastating floods, a Muslim doctor named Farhan set out to help displaced families. Alongside medicine, he handed out small salt packets, not for cooking alone, but with a note that read, "This salt is from the earth Allah created for us. Say Bismillah before using it, and remember, He can purify your heart as He purifies your food." For some, it was a simple gesture. For others, it became a source of comfort in a time when everything felt uncertain. Months later, some families wrote back to Dr. Farhan saying the salt packet sat in their home as a reminder to make dua daily, a spark of faith that kept their hope alive through hardship. Final reflection. Allah's power is not limited to great earth-shaking miracles. Often, His mercy comes quietly, through small acts that the world may overlook. The Prophet Muhammad taught us that even removing a harmful object from the road is charity. So imagine the power in placing something beneficial, even as small as a pinch of salt, with the intention of seeking Allah's blessing. Every small act with sincere faith can open the door to Allah's powerful response. If you've ever witnessed a small act leading to a big blessing, share your story below. You never know who might need to hear it today. And if this video has opened your eyes to the hidden beauty in everyday actions, spread it to someone you love. Your share might be the reason someone remembers Allah in their own home tonight.